The data dropping now, that goods trade balance widening out to negative $72 billion. So that July trade balance widening out to negative $72 billion. The wholesale inventory numbers month on month coming up by 0.7%. The conversation had been, will we see a lot of buying ahead of a lot of tariffs getting put into effect, and that will increase your overall inventories. But that deficit really blowing out there, David.
And of course, this was the first month when we had China tariffs in effect. So I'm going to turn to Mike McKee now, Bloomberg International Economics and Policy Correspondent. Going into this month, these numbers, a lot of people were talking about the effect of tariffs.
Yeah.
Play that out for us. Which way does it cut?
Well, it's obviously bad news for the overall GDP numbers because the trade deficit subtracts from growth. Now, we don't have all the details on the trade numbers yet, but let me pull up one chart here to show you kind of what we're talking about. We saw in prior months, this is soybean exports. You can see early in the year, soybean exports soared because countries were trying to get ahead of the potential tariffs. Then in the prior month, in June, we saw them flatten out. The question now is, did we see them start to decline, which is what everybody expects? We'll get that when we get a little more detail on the numbers. But that's the kind of thing that people have been looking at. Was there a lot of buying in advance? And we also saw this with steel and aluminum. A lot of buying in advance to try to beat the tariffs and stockpile ahead of that. And that would suggest that we're going to see the trade deficit continue to widen.
Now, the president obviously is very fixated on the trade deficit itself. His strategy toward China thus far doesn't seem to be working, but maybe he'd say we just have to get tougher.
Well, that's the question. He, the other day, yesterday in the Oval Office, said this is not the time to talk to the Chinese about doing something about their tariff dispute. So it suggests that he is still focused on putting a lot of pressure on them. And now we've got the potential of the $200 billion in additional sanctions going on to China next month. Don't know if they're going to go through with that, but that is the sword hanging over the Chinese at the moment.